Hello, my loves. I am so excited to be back with you today to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and something I don't really talk so deeply about. But in honor of a decade passing, I feel like it's an important conversation. And so on November 10th, 10 years ago, 2014, I lost my mother. And so I want to take you on a journey. I want to share the 10 things I've learned over the last 10 years of essentially growing up without a mom, right? I had her in my youth, but the pivotal years of actually stepping into womanhood and all of the phone calls I wish I could have made and questions I still very much have around life and especially the sticky pickles I got myself into that you really need a mother to lean into, what I've learned in not having one. And so whether you've lost your mother, whether you're at ends with your mother, whether it's someone that you don't rely on and you've had to reparent yourself, this episode's for you. And it's a little bit different. Usually we talk about dating or we talk about marketing, but this one, like grief, it's so big. And so I'm so happy that you're here. I'm sorry if this is what brought you to this conversation, but I think it is something that's really, really important to explore is this mother wound and how beautiful it gets to be when you actually heal this and grow from it and understand it. And honestly, the opportunities that have opened up in my life because of this, it's tremendous. And so if you're new here, what's up? My name is Laura Patricia Martin. If you want to go find more information, it means the world to me. Go hang out over on Instagram. My Instagram is ITS Laura Patricia Martin. So it's Laura Patricia Martin. And you'll find more information over there. But I'm so excited that you're here. Make sure you subscribe for new episodes every single Monday. We have loads of episodes, everything, and loads of programs, things like that to get into, whether it's love, alchemy of love, or branding, Boulder Branding Academy. So come hang out there. And so let's have a conversation about this because this whole journey, right? I had like that white picket fence family growing up, and then my parents got a divorce and I lost my mother to addiction. And my life just, when I was 16, flipped upside down. And I didn't really know what to do because I didn't understand addiction. I didn't have the knowledge I have now. I didn't go through my own addictions. I didn't have people I had to cater to. It was my first experience of even knowing what this was. And to be honest, she was a closet addict. So I had no idea up until this point that the divorce happened, that she was even an addict. And my life just flipped upside down. And it was really, really traumatic because just all the things that happened. And then when I was 22 years old, I got a phone call from my brother, who got a phone call from the police that said my mother, what they call it's an addiction accidental death. And we had to go, and she had fallen and crushed her brainstem, and we had to decide. And in her will was to let her go. So my brother and I had to make that decision. And on November 10th, 2014 is when we said goodbye. And it's, to this day, it's one of the hardest things that I've had to go through as I get older. And there's these moments of thinking of my kids and thinking of my marriage and thinking of these things, the things I'm so excited to share with her, hoping that she would get sober. It gets harder the older I get and the closer I get to her age. It's this interesting experience that I've learned to walk with. And that's the first thing that I've learned over these last 10 years is grief is something that you just learn to walk with. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get better with time. It doesn't get better. And I'm sorry if that's your season, but being 10 years in, it's something that you just learn to walk with it. It's kind of just like this little shadow that's in the back burner, and as much trauma work as you can do with it and as much stuff, all you can do is learn to walk with it, right? I don't fight the fact that I get choked up about it. I don't fight the fact that these days are really hard for me. I don't fight the fact that my emotions come. It's oh, I should be over it by now. I should do this. I should be that. It's in me, the way that I feel these things in my body is a way that I get to keep her alive. Getting to talk about her, getting to talk about the experience, getting to talk about what I learned from it, getting to really switch who I am because of it. I'm nowhere near the person that I was. Granted, I was 22 at the time, but I'm nowhere near that human at all because of this moment. It was really, really one of the most pivotal times in my life that changed things really quickly for me. And the older I get, it's not as intense, right? I remember the season of right after where I couldn't do anything. And now it's this like feeling, it's this faint of heart that I feel when I think of her, or when I reach for my mom, or when I have a question, like those feelings and those conflicts, like with a partner where you're like, I need to call my mom, like those types of things. It makes me really sad, but I've learned to just walk with it. And I know a lot of us have been through events in life that didn't go as planned. And the reason I want to spend so much time on this one is because grief is something, when you can powerfully hold it, it can really become a really, really heart-centered experience. It can be something that it doesn't need to be feared. It doesn't need to be shamed. It doesn't need to be gotten rid of. It's just something of like, oh, I have this. And in my interpretation, it's, oh, I have this, and this is my way of keeping her alive, right? It's not like a breakup. It's not like a thing that you eventually get over. It's not like this kind of stuff. It's a loss, right? So whether it's a loss of a family member that you had, or a kid, or things like that, it is just this grief that it's just like, it's there. It's there. And you catch a point in your grief where you got to pick yourself up and you got to move on with your life. And you can use it as just a reminder of life and a reminder of what's there, but it cannot be the weight that sinks you down, right? This is why it's not the driving force in my life anymore. It's not something I talk about that much. It's not something that leads me, but it is something I honor, right? I honor these days. I honor when my brother calls me and we're talking about Garrett's popcorn and we will start like weeping a little bit. I honor, the memories I have of her. I honor missing her, like how lucky I am to have someone I miss so much is something I often say. And, it's in those moments where I realize like grief isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just the spin we put on it. Like, I remember the weighted blanket I felt on me of like, I didn't know how to eat. I only knew how to drink. I didn't know how to do much other than like throw myself into work to distract myself and try to ignore the pain that I was feeling. And once I could start to get very comfortable with this pain, I stopped fearing it. And so whatever season you're in, it's just really sitting with this aspect of like, grief is okay. You just learn to walk with it. It's just like a scar on your skin. Like I got, plenty of scars. It's just a thing. It's there and it has a story. And I don't try to ever say like, it's not a big deal. It's just like, it is a big deal and it sucks. And I hope no one has to go through it. And I hope these experience, but at the same time, I have so much gratitude for that experience, as messed up as that sounds, because I would not be this woman I am today. I can see now in a belief system I have for myself is like, before coming into this planet, my mother made a sacrifice because my brother and I were on very similar trajectories. Him, not so much with the addiction, that was definitely me, but like in love, we were on these paths. And him and I, given our generational history, because of that moment, him and I, we found ourselves, we explored the world. My brother now lives in Tokyo with his family. He's just like this incredible man to his wife and his two daughters. And this whole journey that he went on, same for me, of exploring these things and exploring the world and really becoming the woman that I'm about to unfold here and unpack here. And it's just being able to really sit in those moments of like, there's nothing that's by accident. And if you can find the blessing in the grief, and to really look at where's the sacredness in this wound. I talk about this in Alchemy of Love, like a sacred wound, where it's like, I would not be even remotely close to who I am today if these things didn't happen. So yes, I can feel that grief and I can learn to walk with it, but because it doesn't hurt in a shameful way anymore and it doesn't make me feel less than, it's just this part of me that makes me feel more. It makes me feel more alive. Like the part of my grief, it's like how lucky I am to feel so much. Right? I feel so much pain. I feel so much grief. Feel so much sadness. And it's okay because that means I'm alive. And it's just holding that part of the grief, knowing it's not going to, it also means I have more space for joy and I can hold the capacities and I can have more passion and things of that nature. It's being able to hold these things. And so that's the first thing when it comes to what I've learned in these last 10 years is I used to fear like sadness and grief and like all of those feelings. And I just started to learn of just like, it doesn't go away. So I might as well learn to walk with it versus try to fight it against it and make it go away and wish it would go away. It's just like, what if I turn to face the grief and face how I feel and actually let that darkness sink in for a second so that it no longer was running my life. And when that happened, everything changed. And this also, number two, has me brought me to a deeper connection with God. So when I lost my mother, was honestly quite atheist. I I didn't understand it. I was raised Catholic, and when you're raised Catholic, you kind of swing the other way. And I was kind of in that like rebel stage of my life, where if anyone knows me now, like I am a full Bible thumper. Like I love God. I read the Bible all day, every day. Like it's my bread and butter. I'm just obsessed with it. It's my source. He's the most incredible man I could ever want in my life. And so it's led me on this path of deeper connection. And it was a slow build in this department, because at first I was very angry, right? Like, how in the heck could you put this in my life? Because it was that happened. And then, so I was sexually assaulted, that my mother fell into it. Well, my mother fell into addiction from divorce. I was sexually assaulted. My mother died. My dad got married a few months later. I said, fuck this, I'm out, and moved to Asia. And so it was this whole journey of like me being like, I am over this stuff. And somehow I found my way into this book called Many Lives, Many Masters. And someone gave it to me after the passing of my mother, and she read it after she lost her son. And it was all about our afterlife and things of that nature. And it just had me start to explore this other world and angels and God and this feeling of death and how people aren't actually gone and the cycle of death and all of these things. And it started to give me hope and connection to something else. I didn't know what the something else was, but I was very open to exploring it. And so that's how I dove deep into spirituality at first. And I'm very woo-woo, like all the things, super, super woo-woo. It just gave me this sense of I'm not alone in this world. And there's some bigger plan in this universe, and I'm not here to fight it. I'm here to understand it. And that ultimately, when I started to like get back to America 6 years later and start to want to explore more spirituality, have healthier dynamics in my life, blah, 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 I found my way into church. And that's when I started to explore God again. And it's just brought me into this space of love and compassion and knowing that, that's the best place to be, right? Like that's the forever. That is the end game. And whenever it's his time to call you, it's his time. And there's no need to be mad about that. There's only surrender and acceptance for when I will meet her again. And honestly, her death brought me closer to her. Her and I, given her addiction, we didn't have that close of a relationship come the end of her life. We were Mini-Me as her name for me growing up. But because of everything that was going on in her life that I didn't know and wasn't made aware of because I was a kid, I didn't understand like what I now see protection over me, but was her rage, her overprotection, lack of boundaries, fear, like all this stuff projected on me. I didn't know at the time that's what she was doing because of all of this stuff. We didn't have the best relationship. And then I remember sitting in psych class one day, because I didn't talk to her for an entire year because something happened. And I was sitting in psych class and we were learning about addiction. And I just remember being like, oh my goodness, my mother's an addict. Like there's nothing wrong with her. She's just sick. And so the version of my mom that I was raised with, she's now dead. But the one that I had, she's very much alive, and I needed to learn how to accept her in her midst of chaos, of what she was trying to run from in that, and how I could best support her from a distance without enabling. I was still a kid. I didn't yet know these terms of what I was doing. I then had to grapple with my own addictions and went through the 12 steps and started to understand these things. But I found my way closer to her after her death because of these things, because I couldn't understand it. And then I went on my own journey. After that happened, I moved to Asia, ended up falling in love with the wrong guy, ending up getting into my own spell of things, of drugs and things like that, and ended up going on my own addiction journey so that I could really understand her in a way. And the whole time, the thing that's so wild is, my dad said this to me one time, is my mom spent her whole life being really afraid I would live her life. And so that's why she was hyper protective of me. And like my brother could do whatever he wanted, but there was always eyes on me, and I had no free will. I had no openness. It was just all eyes on Laura, and it was really horrible. Like, no trust. It's very dramatic. And my dad sat me down one day because I kept asking him. I flew home one time from Thailand, and it was when I was getting sober and I was doing a lot better. And him and I were hanging out, and I asked him, can you tell me about mom's addiction? And he opened up and he looked at me and he's like, because he wasn't very supportive during my whole journey. And He looks at me and he's like, it's so wild because she spent her whole life trying to protect you. And then at the same age, at 22, you did the same thing she spent her whole life trying to protect you from. Because my mom had the same life experience of falling in love with the wrong man, getting caught up with drugs, and not being able to leave, and having her family having to come pull her out of that situation. And that's exactly what happened at 22. And then the same thing happened to me at 22. And it freaked my dad out. And it's just like these moments, now that I understand a little bit more because I went through my own trials and tribulations, I feel so much more connected to her, feel so much more understood, feel so much more forgiving of what she did. Because at the time I just felt abandoned. I didn't understand. How could you choose drugs over me? All the kind of things. And then I understood. And so now it's like I have this mother within me, right? It sucks. And it's a feeling that, some people be like, oh, she's always with you. And I honestly want to slap them in the face sometimes, but I get it because she is always with me, but there's not this physical person to call. But it's this like safety blanket that's always with me now. And it does bring me closer to her because I'm not quite sure if she was still alive, if we would have that. And so it's brought me closer to the spiritual world, to God. The third one is I've had to learn how to mother myself. And this one was a blessing and a curse at the same time because I wobbled so hard and messed up my life. But this is ultimately what actually helped me step into womanhood. This is like what alchemy of love is, because we're not really taught how to be a woman other than like, you got your period. Yay, here, go find a husband and learn how to do these things and be a wife and do this stuff, like explore what love means and all this kind of stuff. Like it's something we weren't taught and raised with. And so because I didn't have her projections or her protections on me, I wobbled a lot. Don't get me wrong. I got my early 20s way wrong. But because I didn't have my mother's protection and projection and me trying to like revert things and like all this stuff, I got to scribble outside the lines and really establish what is womanhood for me. I got to really establish what does it feel like to parent myself, to mother myself, to find ways to have that version of protection, because that urge to have a mother will never go away. Like you always want your mom. We all want our parent, but like when we don't have one, it's our personal responsibility to parent ourselves. We still have to do this even if our parents are alive, but it's a little bit harder because our parent is there. So you still have that crutch, you still have that person to lean into, you still have that identity, you still have that part. So when that person isn't there, I'm gifted this opportunity of like, I really, really, really had to look at myself and own all of my flaws, all of my shadows, all of my parts, and mother myself. Like really fix that voice inside my head and become the mother I didn't have, right? She did her best, and I love her for what she did, but there's so much obviously that I want to shift when my kids get on this planet and decide to come Earthside. There's so much in me I wanted to heal, so I don't then project that onto my kids because that's what she ultimately did. And it instilled this cycle. Whereas like for me, I want to heal as much as I can. I know my kids are going to be an ayahuasca journey in and of themselves and challenge the shit on me and trigger me. And there's only so much I can prepare for, but I want to heal as much in me so that I don't carry what was gifted from me in that generation and waste what she sacrificed to the lifetime that she put me and my brother on. I don't want to waste that. And so I went on this whole soul journey of like, how do I truly raise myself? How do I really step into womanhood? How do I really own this really, really powerful opportunity that I'm gifted? And you might be in that space. I'm like, I'm a little wonky, Laura. That might be a little bit too far. And I get you, but I had no other option, right? I don't have parents, right? I remember one time I was fighting with my brother's girlfriend in college, and we were going at it. I was defending my brother, like all these things. And then she paused in the middle of the fight. I will always remember this. She pauses in the middle of the fight, and I'm like going at it. I'm like ready. We're not like physically fighting. We're like verbally fighting. And she just pauses, and I'm like, what? And she looks at me and she goes, I just remembered I'm fighting with someone that doesn't have parents. And I just looked at her and I was like, what is that supposed to mean? She's like, you have no idea what you're doing, so I have to stop getting offended by what you do. And I was like, right. Because I didn't have bumpers, right? Like I didn't have bumpers in my life. I've been trying to wobble and figure it out since I was 16. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just projected into these different areas of life and fumbling the ball, and I'm surrounded by drugs and alcohol and like all this stuff and really messing it up. But I gifted this opportunity of like, nope, I want to figure this out. And so I remember when I started to get into my later 20s, I was like, yeah, no, like I want to be an adult. I love the fact that I'm 32. I love being a woman. I love being in older circles. I love this opportunity. I love my young heart, but I love being older. And that's something I had to train myself, because otherwise I was like stunted where my trauma was at 16. Like I constantly kept walking into rooms feeling like, oh my God, I'm like 16. I'm too young to be here. And I was like 28. And it's like that feeling I had in my body. I had to go revisit what that was stunting my growth so that I could really step into my womanhood. And that's what birthed Alchemy of Love. Is like, I had no idea how to be a wife. Like there's these childish things. There's this like back end insecurity. Like there's all this stuff going on that I was like, wait, I need to fix this. And so I went on this whole journey, and it really has helped me define my own womanhood and learn how to mother myself and really reparent myself in such a unique and gifted way. And ultimately, this also helped me redefine love. And so this is number 4, where because I had to scribble outside the lines, and because I didn't have like the model of my parents, I didn't have my mother or my father's love, or like my brother's distance because he was starting his life in Tokyo. Like it was really this, like all the forms of protection you're supposed to have, like that you were born into this world with, that God gave you, just like stripped away. And so I got to sit here, and instead of, my youth of being imprinted with like, this is what love is, which, I see with my clients where like they have, their parents are like happily married, and it puts a lot of pressure on them, and they actually fumble at love because they pedestal love in such a degree that it's like, it has to be like this or nothing. And they don't really have conflict resolution skills. And it's just this like unachievable type of thing because it wasn't matched to the modern world. They didn't actually have these hard conversations with their parents, and it's just very matched to like what that is. And I'm not scribbling outside that line, and I love that. That's a good achievable. But because those of us that weren't gifted that, I really do see it as a gift, because you get to redefine what love is for you. You get to choose and pick and choose. This is why your dating season is so important, to go and explore and learn and receive and communicate and fail and get rejected and be bummed out and learn how to hold these emotions and have hard conversations and do these types of things, because you really get to redefine like, what is love for me? What does it mean for me? Not just what I was modeled from my parents or not modeled from my parents, but what does it actually mean for you? That's where you get to actually start to redefine what love is. And that's what, in this process of losing my mother, I got to figure out what that is. What is it with family? What I had to redefine what that looked like with my family unit, because I didn't have one anymore. I had to redefine what that is with friendships. I got to find like the deepest friendships. Like I am not a many friends person. I am a ride or die with a handful of people. And that's my family, because it's a soul connection that like God knew, hey, I'm going to put you, it's like we have me and Steph have like a running joke where it's just like, he really wanted me to feel it all like in this lifetime. He just wanted me to have all life experiences. And I wouldn't be able to do it without friends. And the friends I have, like God really did gift it to me, where it was like, I am not letting you do it fully alone. Like I'm going to show you how to be alone, but I am not letting you do it fully alone. And it helped me redefine what that is and really explore these different avenues and, find myself in love and outside of love and find all of these different components of it. So when you're going through grief and you're going through loss, let it shake you to your core and let it really rock you awake of like, what do you really want from love? Because I was just going through the motions of like, I just want to be loved. Like, that's it. This feels great. Like, let's do this. And I was going through this. But like what I really wanted in love is like real soul love, really feeling it type of love. I wanted safety. I wanted compassion. I wanted passion. Like I wanted all of these things, and really looking at, okay, who do I have to become now to be a match for these things? And again, Alchemy of Love was born. And that's that whole journey of like, what really is love for you? Because when something traumatic happens, when something big happens, it's a moment of you really sitting in self-reflection and going, what do I really want in love? And what does it mean to be loved? What does it feel like to be loved? Like that love from God, like this unshakable, like, oh, this peace. Oh my God, it's so juicy. That type of love, like you get to define what that is, and don't waste the opportunity of a broken heart. Like it's stretching open. You think of like a stretched muscle, it's stretching bigger, and there's space for more muscle to grow in. Like that is what is happening in your heart when you go through grief. Like it is just stretching and cracking open for more love to come through. Define what you want that to be. Like redefine. Don't just be a product of your circumstance. And this one into number 5 is, okay, I didn't have like the outside sources and all these kind of things. Number 5 is I had to learn how to self-soothe. And this one, honestly, guys, I still fumble the ball on because he's not your mom or your dad. I don't have that one either. But like, I mean, he's still alive. We're just not connected at the moment. I, especially at this age, like I got questions about marriage and babies and life and this season and just like even today, like I just want to call my mom. I just want to call my mom. And I can't. Like I can pray, I can do those things. I can call my best friend. But like when shit hits the fan and that parent that is supposed to be unconditionally loving you and that safe person and just be like, I am a spinning mom, like those types of things, I don't have it. And so learning how to self-soothe, which is someone that I've had trauma bonds, I had deep codependency in my 20s because of all these things, and a lot of insecurities and a lot of needing validation and outside sourcing and things like that. I needed to learn how to self-soothe. And honestly, I still use Steph a lot for this. Like she's essentially, she gifted, her mom raised her, and then she gets to help me even though she's younger than me. I call her my little angel baby. But it's these things where it's like that normal unconditional love. Like honestly, the only form of unconditional love we can ever have is hopefully from our mothers if they do it right? And it just sucks. And so I've really had to learn how to self-soothe and to be in moments of deep, deep grief, deep, deep intensity, deep, deep shame, deep, deep regret, like all the things, boy problems, finance, like things, like the stuff you just want to call your parents for. I've had to learn to self-soothe and really be self-reliant in that I got to rock my inner child to sleep. I got to calm her down. I got to be there for her. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. And granted, I don't hope it forever, but it has helped me in relationships. It's helped me in my business. It's helped me become the leader that I am because I now know I am my best ROI, right? Like I know I can pretty much do all things. I will always figure it out. And I have no worry in that. And honestly, it's because I've been forced to stand on my own 2 feet. Like there is no backup plan for me. I don't have something to fall on. I've had to figure it out. And so that self-soothing aspect of like, one, I have really great friends that I get to lean into, but at the same time, I also have this like inner world that I've had to learn how to bring love in a form of just a feeling. Like I couldn't rely on outside sources. I can't rely on outside sources. It has to be this inner soothing that really is a powerful, powerful thing, especially as a leader. Number 6, this one was a tricky one for a while, is sobriety. And so I'm not fully sober. Like I will have a drink every 6 months, maybe. I have been trying to get sober for a long time. It was like I was drinking too much. I was figuring out like this bounce back and forth. I would drink too much and then I'd shame myself for it and cut it out. And I would have this back and forth. I abused alcohol for a very, very long time, like very long time, and thought it was normal the amount I could drink and like all this stuff. Like it was just normal to me. And then I moved here, and I remember moving here and I was like, I want to do things other than eat and drink. But I don't know what that is because that's all I do. I was raised in the Midwest. That's like all there is to do. And I moved to Florida, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to move here because I was like, everyone I meet from Florida, like it seems like, yeah, they drink, like they have the season, but like there's all these activities, there's stuff to do. And God gifted me this opportunity where every person I met, every person I dated, no one drank, like no one. I was like, I didn't mean like cut it out completely, but I've gotten to this point now where I don't want it. And I didn't want it for a long time because I don't want it around my kids because I don't want to have to explain how addiction is in our family. I mean, I'm going to have to explain how addiction is in our family, but I can't explain something that I'm doing, right? So I'm going to model that to them. And, it's just something where in the back of my mind, I'm like, how I would have this grief of like, how am I doing this when this is what I lost her to? It's like I couldn't, but it's all I knew for like fun. And then this stuff started to kick in where like my brain wasn't working with my business as well. And then this responsibility stuff and then relationship stuff. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm good. I'm complete. And it's taught me that, right? Like, and I think that's part of her journey, right? Like everyone in my family on both sides, like they struggle with drinking, and I just didn't want to. And I feel really good about it. My face looks snatched. Like I feel great. I sleep great. I wake up knowing what I want to do and what I didn't do and all the kind of things. I'm a great DD. I go to bed on time. Like it's just, I feel good. And I'm not saying I will never drink again. I love a good glass of wine. Plus, when we go to Spain, I will definitely be drinking Spanish wine. But it's different, right? It's just this, I don't escape with drinking anymore. I don't escape really with anything anymore. I want to feel all of my things. I want to feel everything that I have so that I don't project anything. And I want to heal the things that I can and just learn to walk with the things that I can't. And sobriety has helped me do that, to feel and explore and to move through all of these shame spells that I kept putting myself in because I didn't want to feel stuff, to avoid boredom, to avoid being alone, to avoid certain shadows that I was trying to get rid of. That's what I was using alcohol for. And I feel like now I'm good. Like it's one of those things. I definitely sometimes get the craving where I'm just like, oh, like I'm a stressful time. And I'm like, I'm going to have a martini. And it's like, and then I get there and I'm like, I'll take a soda water with lime. Like, it's like, I don't really want it. But like, it's the feeling. And I can feel myself wanting to escape, but definitely losing my mom helped me get sober. Not at first. I definitely dove headfirst into a lot of drugs and a lot of alcohol for a long time. And it took me a long time to get here, almost 10 years. But now it's always been, not always, for the last 4 years, it's kind of been in the back of my mind. Like I would always go on these like stints of like, I'm going to stop and then I'd do it and then stop and then do it. And it was like this like back and forth until finally I was like, I'm good. I'm complete with my mission. Number 7. The 7th thing I have learned since losing my mother from addiction 10 years ago is life is so quick. Do the thing. So the thing that changed my mind about everything in life is I've been waiting to do, at that time, I had crippling social anxiety. I wasn't doing anything. Like I, again, escaped with drugs and alcohol. I was so numb to life. I was so afraid of life. I like stayed in my little bubble. I didn't like to travel alone. And then all of a sudden my mom died and I was like, I'm out to Asia. I'm moving to a third world country. I'm going to go volunteer. Because the was like my mom, I never talk about this. My mom passed because she tripped on the stairs. And she was drunk, of course, but she tripped on the stairs and she ended up falling just 5 stairs. But because of the way she fell, her head hit the baseboard and it crushed her brainstem. Freak accident, right? 5 stairs. The tiniest hole, literally the size of my pinky nail, is what did it. And it always brings me back to life is so quick. Like you have no idea if it's today or 50 years from now. You have no idea. And so at first it made me like live life anxiously of like, I have to fit everything in a day. I can never watch a movie. I can never do the things. And I was so stressed out. And it was honestly probably 3 years ago where me and my best friend were having this conversation. She's like, why are you like this? Because I kept like stressing men out and like pissing people off that I was like, I have to do this. I can't sit here. We have to go do an activity. We can't do this. Like I was trying to fit so much in versus trusting life. And so I went on that whole thing of like, life's so quick, fit all in. Let's live a wide life, not long, blah, blah, like all this stuff, to now being like, I'm just making sure I feel stuff every day, whether that is just laying on the couch watching a movie. Like I haven't done shit today. It's 5 p.m. I haven't done anything. Or well, I've done some stuff, but not this. Or not like adventures and stuff. Like it's things like that where it's like you can still just feel stuff and, to really, really do it. Travel the world, fall in love, say the thing, start the business, go all in on your health, take a risk a time or two, not all the time, like be in this life, but it really has just like you never freaking know. And you can spend your whole life being afraid. And then something happens. And then you can't do it anymore. My mom spent her whole life, she wanted to travel the world, she wanted to volunteer at these certain places. She had all these goals. And it was always for later. And then 52. She's so young. Oh my God. It goes so quick. So do the thing. That's all I'm going to say on that. And 8 and 9 kind of go together. 8 is be bold, 9 is be authentic. The reason I say these is kind of going hand in hand with that. One, my mother was the boldest human on the planet. Like, now I look back at it, she was probably definitely drunk when she did this shit. But she would jump on any piano. She was making all the noise. She was center of attention. Like, she loved life. Her license plate was Live Life 7. Like, she loved it. And so something I take with me is I literally will say it in my head before I go live, before I do something, before I speak on stage, before any of the things. I'm just like, Live Life 7. Like, fuck it. Live Life 7. Like, it is in my head because it's just like, do the thing. Be bold. Like, show up in your space. Show up to be seen. Do it. Right? And then number 9, being authentic, because addiction, right? After going through everything and sitting at the tables that I've sat at and going through my own journey, you're using drugs and alcohol to that degree, especially as a coping mechanism, right? You're using it to mask this insecurity, this level of lack of intimacy, of needing to provide fun because you don't believe you're the fun, to get some confidence, to feel this, to feel that, this like false thing where like, I say whatever the fuck I want to say. I don't need alcohol to do it now, right? I realize like, if I'm going to lose myself to addiction too, or I'm going to lose myself in this relationship, or I'm going to lose myself to this, I might as well be all of me and be rejected for all of me versus the freaking actress that I'm going to be. And so over these last 10 years, I have really found myself trying to figure this out. I wobbled in my 20s for sure. It's definitely been something in the last 2 years that I've been really, really narrowing down of like, how do I actually be my most authentic self? How do I find my voice? How do I do a heart-to-heart connection? How do I stop putting on a performance so that I can actually be comfortable with who I am? Because I don't want to get to the end of my life being like, that was a fun little show. Let's like, whatever. Like, let's not be ourselves. It's like, no, I want to feel everything in my body and I want to have heartfelt connections. I want to lead a business that is my business. I want to feel your guys' heart. I want to show up here without any lies, without any fakes, without any things. It's like, this is me. Hello. Like, I spill all my beans. I tell you the stories. I do the whole things. Like, it feels so free. I feel so free because of this. And that's what I want everyone to feel. It's just like, how can you, maybe you don't lose someone, maybe you don't have, like, you just hear it of like, how can you show up more authentically? How can you actually feel your heart in certain things versus trying to pretend to be something you're not? It gets exhausting to get ahead, to get the job, to get the guy, to get the money. Like, stop it. Stop. Life is quick. It's so fast. I know sometimes you're sitting here and we're like, hurry up, please. Give me the ring. Like, it's those types of things that like, it's so fast. Savor it. Savor it, savor it, savor it, and get connected to your heart and be yourself as much as you can. And then the last one, never let things go unsaid. Something again, in the way that my mother died, I count my lucky stars that beam from God shot in during that psych class, because I don't know what I would do if I didn't talk to her the last year. It was hard. Really hard. Especially being a kid, because I didn't know what was going on. But I count my lucky moons that I said everything I needed to say. I probably could have said I love you a lot more, but I at least had her in my life. And so even when I'm like repairing things with my dad and working on things with my partner and, certain things, it's like, I will always let you know how cared for you are in my life. And I will always let you know how loved you are, even if I'm afraid I'm being so vulnerable and I'm afraid of all these things and I'm afraid of being rejected. Like, I want you to know how much I love you. And never let things go unsaid. You have no idea. Again, be bold, be authentic. Like, you have no idea if someone's needing to hear that or what's going to happen next. Like, I love you 1,000 times. I don't care if I said it already 1,000 times. Like, let people know. Let people know how you feel, how much love. A lot of us like protect ourselves. We don't want to be too much. I don't want you to know how much I love you in case you care. In case you reject me and it's too much and blah, blah, blah. Like, love is never a bad thing, right? When you're sharing kindness and compliments and connection and all those kind of things, like, it is never a bad thing. So never let things go unsaid. And actually, number 11, slow it the fuck down. Don't miss it. There's so much happening in our life all the time. I'm just making this one on the cuff because it's so important. There's so much happening. Savor how things taste, savor how things feel, savor moments with family. Stop rushing the holidays, stop rushing certain things. Like, savor the little moments. Savor when you're even pissed off and your like partner's pissing you off. Like, savor that, because you are gonna miss that. I miss how annoying my mom is. I miss how sassy and annoying and controlling and bitchy and loud. Like, I miss it. As much trauma as that woman fucking instilled on me, I miss it. So slow it down. We're so quick to get rid of pain and misunderstandings of people and wanting to be back in our comfort and loving to be protected and wanting to get things over with, and we're missing life. I've almost missed a lot of my life. And through these 10 years, I have learned to slow the fuck down, to just be here, to take it in. Every season, every feeling, every fingertip. Truly, truly, truly. And so if you're going through grief or sadness, loss, fear, confusion, frustration, I hope this landed for you. There's so much I learned in these 10 years. There's so much I'm going to learn as I step into this next season of life without a mom. And, you know, there are no mistakes. And it might be too early to say that to you, but I'm saying this to me right now. There are no mistakes ever. God does not make any mistakes. And you just learn to walk with it. What is the lesson? What is the test? What is the soul journey? How can I make the best of it? That's it. That's your only job. How can I make the best of it? And as you go on the journey, be that beacon of light as much as you can. Because it doesn't go away. But it doesn't have to be the weight either. It gets to just be a part of you that you walk with and you revisit from time to time. And it helps you grow and it helps you connect. Like, a thing about this is I know how to connect now. Like, I feel people so deeply because of this. My heart is so big and so deep and so tender. And it's a gift. That's what grief does. And so I love you guys so much. Truly, truly, thank you for letting me share this with you. I don't talk much about this. Like, I really don't. And I was sitting here and it's like, what can I explore? What can I open? And it's not good. We got some tears. We got some laughs. We got some guidelines, and share this with whoever needs it. I loved this conversation. I like the heartfelt ones. And if this landed with you, just go rate and write us a review. It means the world. Share this with someone that you know it can land on their heart with. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay. I love you. Bye.